Today I'm going to share with everyone on what are things that we are doing down there in Iskandar, Malaysia. And I think not many of you know or maybe are not aware what Iskandar Malaysia is all about. So I will touch base on that a little bit. And then I will provide some guiding framework on how we actually manage and drive economic in Iskandar, Malaysia. And I think today we talk about how pandemic has actually changed our life, our lifestyle, and the way that we do things. So I will share a little bit the effort that we have done and things that we will continue to do and new things that we think is appropriate to make our city region a resilient region, and so we can actually partake any pandemic, disaster, and so forth. And I will also share one slider on a conclusion how I think that we should move forward. So when we talk about Iskandar, Malaysia, it's actually an economic region. So our land area is about 2217 square kilometer. It's actually 12% of Johor State. And within our region, there are 5 municipality or local authority comprises of Majlis Bandaraya Johor Bahru, Majlis Bandaraya Iskandar Puteri, Majlis Bandaraya Pasir Gudang, and we have Perbandaran Kulai as well as Pontian. So for Iskandar, Malaysia, this year we are already 15 years. So we established ourselves in 2006, and our vision is to become a strong and sustainable metropolis of international standing with 5 strategic pillars. So we are talking about how we should position ourselves. We talk about what are the economic drivers. We take care of social economic equity. And I think just to introduce the institutional framework, the organization that I'm working on is Iskandar Regional Development Authority. And lastly, we have to make sure that infrastructure is actually an enabler to actually quality of life, as well as how we want to attract investment into our region. So there are 3 foundations, and our targets is actually looking at how we can become a premier economic region with 383 billion investment. That is our target for 2025. And we talk about GDP growth and 3 million population. So we started with 1.5 million in year 2005. And we are currently about 2.1 million. So we target about in year 2025, we will have 3 million. So we are talking about job employment, average household income move from average 6,000 per household to 10,000 in year 2025. And of course, we talk about 58% reduction in GHG emission intensity. So in Iskandar, Malaysia, I think we are talking about towards maturity. So our target is actually year 2025 towards maturity, and I have to share with you that perhaps pandemic has a little bit slowed down in achieving our targets, but we are in preparation on how we want to move forward. So we are currently really in phase 3, and this is where we want to sustain and innovate some of our programs or our targets. So I mentioned just now about Iskandar Regional Development Authority. So we are established through an Act of Parliament to deliver Iskandar Malaysia vision. And fortunately, our chairman is actually both our Prime Minister and Johor Chief Minister. And our role is actually to plan, promote and facilitate not only economy, but as well as social development, environment and so forth. So now I want to share with you our important document that actually guide us in moving towards our strong, sustainable metropolis of international standing. So we talk about how we can actually develop an Iskandar Malaysia ecosystem, and this is actually reflecting the economy, social and environment part of sustainability, whereby when we move forward, we realize that what we need to do when we talk about economy is actually how to generate wealth. Yeah, and then when we are managed to bring in the economy, the wealth to our region, how we should share this wealth and make our community inclusive, how they can actually participate in the programs and the projects that we are undertaking in Iskandar, Malaysia. And lastly, which is one of the important thing, is to see how we can actually optimize resources that we have within our region, and this will talk about environment, energy, water, and so forth, and how we can actually move our community to become a low carbon society. So I think this is all embedded in our comprehensive development plan too, and currently we are working on a comprehensive development 3 that will look at the current trend and the current scenario that we are having in our region. So again, CDP actually formulates the overall development framework, vision and key direction in order to strengthen the physical, economic and social development of Iskandar, Malaysia. So down there is our circle of sustainability. And on top of that, I think I also mentioned about how we want to achieve that low carbon society. So we have actually developed a low carbon society blueprint in year 2010, and we have actually developed our baseline, and we discover that in order for us to become sustainable, we are targeting about 58% reduction of GHG emission intensity. And in order to do that, we need to work closely with our 5 local authority, and each of them has actually developed their own action plan. Yeah, and I think working together in a comprehensive and holistic manner managed to actually provide a better outcome. So in year 2017, we have actually managed to reduce GHG intensity by actually 13%. And I think with our latest numbers that we have actually reached in year 2019, we managed to do that by 17%. So there are a lot of work to do, but importantly, we are tracking our performance. So when we talk about tracking our performance, we are talking about stage 6 of the cycle, and we use global protocol for community scale greenhouse gas emission inventory. And I think to meet this targeted emission intensity, 8% is the average yearly reduction that we required in order to achieve that 58% of base year. And in another framework that we have actually embarked is actually the Smart City framework. So Smart City to Iskandar, Malaysia is actually an intervention. I think we always carry it as a tools to accelerate our Iskandar, Malaysia vision. And there are 6 dimensions which we have launched in 2012, talks about economy, governance, environment, living, mobility and people. So when we first started in year 2012, we are talking about how we can actually focus, think and implement in a smart way. But until for the last 10 years, we realized that in order for city or region to move towards smart city, there are 4 enabler or ecosystem that we need to focus on. And I think we talk about infrastructure, connectivity, hardware, software and data. So of course, infrastructure is very important. And we talk about a smart city needs to be connected to a big data platform where integration of data can be analyzed and can be provided for an informed decision. I will actually clarify a little bit what we are doing on what we call Iskandar Malaysia Urban Observatory. And for a smart city government action to improve public services, to improve quality of living is important. So government, local authority is the driver for this smart city. And lastly, when we embark on a smart city journey, I know one of the challenges is talking about funding. So private-driven smart solution to enhance quality of life, and this is where networking, collaboration with private sector is actually important to drive smart city. And the journey, we are talking about we have actually launched our IMUO Center, and we are looking at how we can work together with the state of Johor, work together with our local authority to actually achieve a connected devices, data generation to actually sustain this smart city journey. And when we talk about our efforts towards becoming a resilient city region, I know concept of holistic ecosystem is very important to ensure city and regional sustainability as well as resilient. So the way that I'm going to share with you, I still want to talk about this wealth generation, wealth distribution, and this resource optimization. And I want to actually reflect back how COVID-19 or pandemic has actually made us rethink on the things that we are embarking, the projects that we are currently doing. But I think I just want to share with you that there are certain things that we've been doing that I think help us to become sustainable or resilient. So again, when we talk about wealth generation or the economy, I think lesson learned from COVID or pandemic, diversified economy and investment is very important. We are talking about what type of sectors that we should actually embark and what type of investment that we want. And we are talking about international, domestic, and so forth. And I think another thing that we have actually encountered is actually excessive food products. There are no buyer, and I guess because of the location of Iskandar Malaysia next to Singapore, we might be too dependent on our neighbors' deep pocket. So this is something that we need to rethink. And lastly, we talk about industry versus businesses investment. I will share with you in a little bit in thinking about whether we want to focus on 100% service sector or we should also attract manufacturing to actually come to Iskandar Malaysia. So when we talk about continue to do diversified economic sectors and private driven project, balance of local and international investment, upskilling and reskilling, and new opportunities of pandemic actually looking at how we can take care of our food product, food security. We will embark on a modern farming as new economic sector, which I will share a little bit detail, and looking at hybrid services. So I think technology and innovation actually plays an important role when there are limited movement, actually requires optimization of infrastructure and technology. And I guess everybody should agree with me that pandemic actually become a driver for this digital transformation, not only for Malaysia, but for all countries in the world. So for the economy, we are talking about living lab, we're talking about big data platform and so forth. So when we talk about social, talking about how we should distribute wealth, we know that pandemic has actually increased or escalate the unemployment rate. So rise of urban poverty needs to be taken care of, and this close of international boundary and limited movement actually led to slow down of local businesses, and this actually impact our main community, which is our SME, because the small medium enterprise actually contributed to some of our economic as well as socio-economic for Iskandar Malaysia. So again, what I will share with you is how we should continue to do social capital in some of our program. And again, importantly, how we should continue to empower the community, not only for social development programs, but also for economic as well as for our environment. And I think I will also share with you one of the system that we are currently developed, which we think will help our community to be prepared when there are certain pandemic or disaster coming in. The third part is talking about environment, how we can optimize our resource. So actually, when pandemic came in the last 1.5 years, I think environment has actually become cleaner. You can see water quality has become something that we want it to be. air quality is also good. So the question is, how can we continue to make environment sustainable as much as we want during the lockout session? So I guess another thing that we talk when we talk about environment is actually distancing and limited physical contact actually minimize chances of infection. So how do we deal with this? What are the things that we can actually do or start to do to make sure that this social distancing can become the culture that we want to be in moving forward? So when we look at that, we want to implement some of the identified actions that has been outlined in our low carbon society blueprint. But again, the word community empowerment for green lifestyle, for green environment needs to be continued and I guess needs to be strengthened. So when we talk about new opportunities, we have actually embarking in our industry symbiosis and circular economy program, and currently we are looking at how smart building maybe can actually look at limited physical contact even in building and between each other. So this is something that we are looking on and I will share a little bit later. And when we talk about technology and innovation, again, community crisis preparedness system and web-based environment monitoring is something that we want to embark to make sure that we will continue to become resilient. I think when we talk about economy, Iskandar Malaysia focus on these 9 economic sectors, and emerging economies has actually came in depending on the trend and the things that we want to move forward. So one of the emerging economies that we are looking at currently is actually smart farming or modern farming. So when we talk about balanced economic marketing strategies, we talk about how we can balance manufacturing versus services investment. As much as we want Iskandar Malaysia to become services oriented and not manufacturing, we realize that, you know, when come to pandemic like this, manufacturing company, when they want to actually invest in our region, they have to actually invest in a multi or billion ringgit because they have to bring in the equipment, they have to bring in the technology and so forth. But if a service investment that comes into Iskandar Malaysia, they might only professionals, they might actually open banking and so forth. So their investment or overhead is not much. So when come to pandemic like this, of course, the services sector actually go first. They are the one who actually close shop, close their retail businesses, but the manufacturing sector needs to maintain and remain their food in our region because they have actually invest so much. So again, we need to actually balance this, and again, domestic and international also become one of the things that we need to actually look at when we talk about economy. So I think when we first started in year 2006, international actually one of the big investment that comes in. But in the last 15 years, local has started to come in, and now 59% of our investment is actually from local and 41% is from international, and I guess that's make us sustainable. And again, the numbers here when we talk about sectors, 56% is economic sectors and 44% is actually property. So property is not something that we actually promote, but it actually comes naturally. So I think when we talk about web generation, transformation of the SME to digital e-commerce and new skills to meet current requirement is very important. So I think, I think everybody agree we have actually become an online society, and 51.2% of Malaysia actually were recorded using e-commerce platform, and that was actually 2018. I guess if we do the survey, must be about 80% has actually doing this. And I think another thing that Iskandar Malaysia or IRDA is doing is to focus on upskilling and reskilling program. So we focus on job placement and job opportunities. And I think in order to do this, we need to actually change the mindset of people that perhaps some of them need to have this e-commerce. They need to understand talking about security, IT security. They need to understand about smart city intervention and so forth. So the next one that I want to share is about modern farming. So this will become our next sector that we want to focus for. And why we want to do this? This will actually contribute to the national and state food security. And I think just to share with you, in year 2018, Malaysia actually imported nearly 18.5 billion USD food. So I guess this is something that we need to rethink, because Malaysia have a very fertile soil. So why we are not doing this? So when we look closely about food industry or food agriculture, we realize that we have not been able to compete in terms of productivity. Yeah. So what we need to do is how we can increase productivity, how we can enhance our agriculture product quality, perhaps via precision farming, vertical farming, and so forth. And the next one that we want to focus on is talking about hybrid services, not only for improved quality of living, as well as looking at enforcement and so forth. So there are many technology, and we are talking about GIS, digital twins, to actually do land use and building enforcement. And there are also many IoT, AI out there that will be able to help us to actually moving forward in terms to become resilient. So again, I think I mentioned just now about circular economy. This is something new, but Malaysia needs to look at this. So when we talk about circular economy, last time we talked about how we use raw resources, how we produce something about with the raw resources, and we have come out with waste. So there are many industrial waste. So in a circular economy or industry symbiosis, we talk about byproduct. Why we can actually complement factory A and factory B in a byproduct and resources. So it's a form of brokering to bring traditional separate companies, we're talking about industry and businesses, together in innovative collaboration. So we understand what we want to do is that if this industrial symbiosis program will be successful in Iskandar Malaysia, we will start to reduce raw material and waste disposal costs. We will enable to earn new revenue. We will divert waste from landfills, reduce carbon emission, and open up new business opportunities such as waste to energy. So these are something that we want to move forward when we talk about become a resilient economic region. And again, I also talk about big data. So when we want to be resilient and sustainable, of course, we want a program or project that is actually being developed through an informed decision. So big data is actually a collection of data that will change the way we operate, and is a centralized data center to collect, update, analyze, and manage information within Iskandar Malaysia for improved decision making, as well as enhanced transparency to the citizen. So Iskandar Malaysia is about how we analyze huge amount of data, how we use it through analytics to make our decision. So when we embark on Iskandar Malaysia Urban Observatory, we hope that we will eliminate data silo, we will look at how we can improve data governance, how we can actually integrate data sharing to actually move forward together within the private and public sector towards a sustainable Iskandar Malaysia. So these are one of the examples that we are currently doing. We are talking about Iskandar Malaysia Integrated Traffic Management, and this is a project that we are currently working under the UK Prosperity Fund that look at how we can actually implement strategy for a smart integrated mobility management system, and creating enabling condition for data utilization and management. And this is actually quite important because when we completed our bus rapid transit in year 2023, this is something that we want to integrate, and we want to see how we can actually look at the first and last mile of public transportation. So work distribution is very important agenda for Iskandar Malaysia. And I think when we talk about work distribution, we are focusing on social capital towards community resilience. How we can actually share the investment or the economic that is bringing into Iskandar Malaysia, how our community can actually network together with shared norms, values, and understanding that facilitate cooperation within or among groups. So social capital is one of the important program that we are currently doing, and we will continue to collaborate with community on empowerment programs. So social capital and empowerment program is something that we need continue to make sure that we will remain resilient. So we are talking about Iskandar Malaysia Eco Life Challenge. We are talking about Johor Leadership Program. We are working with the youth, incentivize community program. We also work together with NGO because they are the one who actually on the ground. So they know what the community needs, and when come to pandemic, they are the first one that actually become or assisting the frontliner. And we also have community lead initiative talking about smart healthy township and also art and culture. So when we talk about social economy and social development, when it is looking at technology and innovation, we are currently working together closely with our Johor District Office and Majlis Bandara Iskandar Puteri in a pilot project funded by UNDP. So the name of the project is actually Community Crisis Preparedness, and we are talking about how we can actually collect, do an inventory of some of the community out there in terms of, we are talking about B40, we are talking about needy communities, how we can actually collect all of this data so that we understand where are they, and what are their needs. And I think in this pilot project, we are looking at a small area in Iskandar Puteri where we will embark in the program, and at the end of the day, this program can be upscaled to a bigger area. The second project that we are embarking on a technology-driven for resilience is actually looking at how we can create a job opportunities platform. So in Iskandar Malaysia, actually, what we want to achieve is actually the high-end, high-skill jobs that we want to bring into Iskandar Malaysia based on our 9 economic sector. But during pandemic, we realized that there are also other groups of people that perhaps if we don't take care, there will be become a community that is actually being sidelined. So these are the group of people that maybe they don't have the skills, they are not SME, but they are actually people who are good at what we call 3D, the dirty, demanding job. So the job tune is actually a collaboration with Genesis, and this platform is not looking at the high skill job, but we want to make sure that the opportunity to reduce the nation dependency on foreign labor. I think I'm talking about people who can actually do grass cutting, who can do cleaning and so forth. So I think when in a bad situation, perhaps our community should not be too choosy. There are jobs that we can actually do, and I don't think that everybody should become a delivery person. And I think this will help to replace the low skill labor with local workforce and reduce our social and economic issues. So we are going to launch this platform soon, and hopes that it will actually help our community to dive into this platform and see what are the jobs that they can do. And at the same time, this job is actually all about gig economy. So you get paid for your job. So you might have keep your permanent job, but you can use gig economy as supplementary job for you to sustain. The next one is talking about continue to do community empowerment for green lifestyle. I think without the community networking, without the community participation, it is very difficult for Iskandar Malaysia to achieve our 58% target. So we will continue the awareness effort through email, social media, green portal and so forth. And I think when we talk about community empowerment, I just want to share with you a little bit on these two projects. One is the Iskandar Malaysia Eco Life Challenge, awareness and empowerment with the students within our area. So you can see when we first started in 2013, only 23 schools actually participate in this program. But in 2020, 546 schools participate and involve about 55,000 students. Yeah, so these students actually become your change agent. When they go back to their home, they talk about this to their family, to their parents, to their friends and so forth. Another program is the Green Accord Initiative Award, and we are talking about a recognition of companies in support of our low carbon society blueprint, as well as the GHG emission. And we have actually doing this for the last 4 years, and the numbers that is coming in is quite achievable, and we will continue to do this. So for last year, Menara Majlis Bandaraya Johor Bahru and Sunway Big Box Retail Park has actually given the award under the special mention. Again, we will continue to implement identified action for a balanced, sustainable ecosystem. We have Kasbi Iskandar Malaysia, we do building energy monitoring, we have My Carbon program and so forth. So when we talk about resource optimization, two programs that I want to embark in a little bit detail. I am Journey Planner. We already launched this, and we hope that this will encourage and promote use of public transportation. And the next one is actually smart traffic lights that has been implemented by Majlis Pemadaran Kulai. And you can see that this type of program actually managed to sustain and reduce carbon emission, quality of life and so forth. And I want to talk a little bit on smart building. And when we talk about contactless social distancing, we are exploring if smart building can become the trend for the future. So a building that provides owner, operator and occupant with efficient, productive and comfortable and secure through technology, integrated building system, communication and advanced control. So there are three dimensions of smart building. One, talking about low energy, environmental friendly. Second, we are talking about safety. We are talking about comfort of the occupant in terms of lifestyle, health and well-being. And third, we are talking about optimum building lifespan, and this is something that Malaysia is lacking at the moment. So when we embark on smart building, we hope that regular maintenance can be done in order to reduce costs as well as to reduce energy consumption. So when we talk about resource optimization as well, we have actually embarked on what we call Sungai Skudai River Monitoring System, and the resource that we have actually optimized is actually enforcement. So this program is actually a focused enforcement, deploy use of technology for maintenance and monitoring, and I guess we have actually captured a lot of outcome for this program in terms of reduction of water quality as well as optimized resources for enforcement. The second one on the right is actually we are looking at how with big data and information we be able to understand the pattern and trend of COVID, and I think when we talk about integrated neighborhood design for resilient community, I guess gated community really helps during this pandemic. Yeah. And lastly, I want to conclude my presentation by sharing 4 important key takeaway. So when it comes to economy, we need to diversify our economy. We need to cater for both local and international target market. We need to make sure that economy are diversified for investment at higher level as well as investment at lower level, which involve the community. Second, we need to empower and educate community, not only during pandemic and disaster, but also during good time. So during good time, we need to make sure that community are empowered. They need to work together so that when time is bad, they know each other, so that they can help each other then, and they can also assist in a big way. The third one, we're talking about community empowerment for cleaner environment. And I think this is something that we really need to do, because we cannot depend on government to actually clean the environment all the time if the community has not actually participate in the program that we want to do. And lastly, we can actually optimize digital and technology to accelerate our targets, our vision, and also help us to become a resilient city as well as resilient community. With that, I end my presentation.